attitude as, particularly the bloc that I represent, along with other people in the value chain, has always been combative. And if we continue to be combative, at the end of the day, we're not going to get anything. But that attitude has moved from being combative to cooperation. And I know that one of the things in Mr. Mama's presentation was the fact the stakeholders need to own this policy by constituting an advocacy group. And my major takeaway from that is that the Book Trust Fund need to be seen to do more. We know that probably we are busy making money, but if you have read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, you realize that cheese will always finish. So a policy like this, if we spend our resources on it, we ensure that we always have that we make sure that everybody, we have an inclusive policy. You know, interestingly yesterday, let me tell you what happened yesterday. When Professor Jinodu was going, I ran after him. And I said, Prof, you can't leave me behind printer. And he said, oh, is that true? He said it's not true. There's a committee on advocacy for this policy. That will go a long way in helping us. Thank you.
The president of NPA. But before he comes, I just want one comment from the audience. Anybody? Maybe a question or a comment, just one. Then after that, I invite the president of NPA for the final comment. Then the vote of thanks will come by the VP of the Nigerian Publishers Association. So, yes, Mr. Anote, please come very quickly. Your question.
Mine is a comment, which is about this national book policy. As a journalist who has reported the industry for decades, I find it very gratifying that this is coming into play. Because the task that we've always set for the industry was, why can you not come together as a body to move this industry forward, even in terms of book distribution? But I'm happy that government has come in now, which will be a great thing. So thank you very much, NROEDC, for what they have done, and for the stakeholders to also take it seriously. That this is their moment to really grab the day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comment. Because of our time, okay, the last one, while the president
and director of Coact Imprints from India, all the way from India, delivered in the best cost-effective way. Two things what I would prefer and I would like to advise from an experience what I have, being a topmost printer from India, is just don't look at the price parameters of and how efficiently they can bring that content towards your country and help you out in distribution channel across the country. Thank you so much from my side. And it's a pleasure attending your book fair.
All right, thank you very much for that, your comment. Immediately after this, at 12 o'clock, that has been scheduled. So we cannot afford to exceed our time. I am going to invite the president, Nigerian Publishers Association, Chief. Okay. All right. Okay, the vice president, Alhaji Lukman Dauda, the vice president of NPA, will come forward now.
Well, good morning, everyone. One thing I first want to acknowledge is we have been very, very time conscious. We actually planned this program for 2 hours. And in spite of the fact that we started behind schedule, we are still closing within schedule. I want to say that we should give ourselves a round of applause for that. You see, that is one aspect of our culture that we have to really cherish. People always talk about Nigerian factor. There's nothing called Nigerian factor. It is discipline. We have to be disciplined. And I think we have demonstrated that this morning. So thank you very much, everyone that has contributed, especially the keynote speaker that operated within the time frame. I appreciate you, sir. The president, in his usual sense of humor, has asked me once again to represent him in giving the closing remarks and at the same time giving my own vote of thanks. I thank you, sir, my president. Having said that, I want to appreciate everyone for creating time to be here this morning. Permit me to also make reference to a few names, particularly the representative of the appreciate your presence all the time, sir. Most importantly as well, we must appreciate the time devoted by our keynote speaker in preparing that eloquently presented keynote. Well, we know you are, able and capable all the time. I appreciate you all the time. Thank you very much for giving your time to us. And I must recognize our chief host, the chairman of the Book Fair Trust, a very good friend and a very, very humble man, Mr. Dare Oluwatu. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Past chairman of the Book Fair Trust, I have Mr. Dayo Alabi here. Thank you very much. Our President Emeritus in MPA and a past chairman of the Book Trust, a very good friend, a very, very good friend and an ally, Mr. Adedapo Badega. Thank you very much. Dr. Henry, of Mrs. Williams, I think I saw her not quite long. She's been around for a while. Mrs. Grace Samuel, rather. I think Mrs. Grace Samuel, the Deputy Director, Department of Academics. Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Madam. I appreciate you. Please, forgive me if I don't mention your name, but be rest assured that you are well appreciated. Without your presence here, I will be talking to nobody, and it doesn't make any sense. So we sincerely appreciate your presence, and we believe that whenever we call on you again, you always heed to our call. Thank you very much. And I want to believe that, in MPA, we are a very, very big stakeholder, and we are very, very accommodative. We are seen as the umbrella body in the book chain, so to say. And we are playing the fatherly role, ably led by our president, in a way that others continue to appreciate. May God continue to give you the strength, Mr. President, and your executive members. We appreciate the chief executives of member firms of MPA that are here. There's no MPA, and you know that. So, last but not the least, we have to appreciate the Secretariat of MPA, ably led by the Executive Secretary, Mr. Abimbola. We thank you for this robust organization and your team. God will continue to strengthen you too. As far as this book policy issue is concerned, we have been yearning for this thing. And by God's grace, it's coming to fruition. And by God's grace in our own lifetime come to fruition. The lobbying, as the president remarked then, is quite a Herculean task. But by God's grace, the God that saw us to, the realization of this one, will see us through that one too. Whatever it's going to take to achieve it, we are going to achieve it. We are a very great stakeholder. I will not relent in our efforts to get this going. You see, publishing business is one of those that doesn't have, an entry level requirement. And I believe the book policy will have taken care of such. Everybody today is a publisher. Everybody. Even with one crash title, you say you are a publisher. Crash title, you are a publisher. So I think all these things will have been taken care of in the book policy that we are expecting to be legislated. Though, on a lighter note, I was questioning or inquiring from a colleague of mine, Mr. Malomo, that why do we need legislation for the book policy? is a policy already approved by the Ministry of Education and probably by the FEC. What is the essence of the legislation? I think that will be answered in due course in another forum. I'm still at a loss as to why we need a legislation for a policy of that nature. But the people that are behind it will know better than I do. And I know that probably requires that legislation. But nevertheless, we appreciate every effort that has been put into that book policy. And we want to assure you that we'll continue to collaborate with the NRDC and other stakeholders to bring it to fruition. So I wish everyone a very fruitful deliberation after this particular one, going into reproning discussion. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, we have just started. That is just the part one, of the show. And then, we are going into the part two of the show now. There is another presentation that will be done now by the Reproduction Rights Society of Nigeria, REPRONIG. REPRONIG and the secondary rights of authors and publishers, the untapped gold mine. That is what we'll be discussing now. REPRONIG and the secondary rights of authors and publishers. So many of us, authors and publishers seated here, we don't know that we are losing lots of our rights, to the whole world, either to pirates or so, to other users, the secondary users, the third users of our titles and our rights. So that is what we want to discuss now as we talk about the untapped gold mine in the secondary usage of, of our materials. And so I am going to invite here, the acting executive secretary of REPRONIG in person of Mr. Kayode Motunrayo. The chairman, the current chairman of REPRONIG is also here seated, Mr. Adedapo Gbadega. Mr. Gbadega, you are welcome. So we are going into the show of the REPRONIG now. So what are the things you and I should know about secondary rights of, our materials? Those are the issues for authors and publishers. So these are the issues that we'll be discussing now as we move into this other program. Mr. Kayode Motunrayo, you are welcome. A round of applause as he takes the mic. Please, let's be well seated and pay attention. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abimbola. And I want to say a big thank you to every one of us. We appreciate our patience because we've been seated by 10, and it is just because of our passion for the book and copyright that we are seated, and it's much appreciated. We are not taking it for granted. Like Mr. Mola has said, we are dovetailing right into another program now, which is sponsored by the Reproduction Rights Society of Nigeria, REPRONIG, in collaboration with the International Federation of Reprographic Rights Organization, IFRO. Before we move on, let me just tell you a brief introduction about REPRONIG. REPRONIG actually came into being through a copyright forum organized by the Nigerian Copyright Commission in 1994. It was at that forum that the idea of a body that will manage the secondary rights of creators of literary works was being conceived. And at that stage, a body was actually put in place, the Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association of Nigeria, ANFAN. And it was that ANFAN that was saddled of setting up REPRONIG. And with ANFAN, in collaboration with IFRO, REPRONIG was set up and it was incorporated and licensed by the Nigerian Copyright Commission as the reprographic organization to manage the secondary rights of authors and publishers of literary and artistic work. The mandate of REPRONIG is to do a collective management of the secondary rights. What do we mean by secondary rights? Secondary rights include arbitrarily with no compensation to us. So, and that is why we are here. And I have my chairman here. But before I do the introduction, I would like to let us that this meeting is going to be hybrid in nature. So we have participants that will be joining us online. And most of our facilitators are also going to be joining us virtually. So by means of introduction, I would like to introduce some stakeholders that are here with us. And I'm going to start right with the chairman of the board of the Reproduction Rights Society of Nigeria, REPRONIC, and that is in person of Mr. Adedapo Gbadega, as of this annual book fair. And I would also like to introduce to us the stakeholders in the REPRONIC circle. And online we have the consultant communication and strategy in International Federation of Reproductive Rights Organization, IFRO. That is Ms. Sarah Trans is online with us. Also online, okay. Well, I think without wasting time on the introduction, I have the honor and privilege of inviting the chairman of REPRONIC, Mr. Adedapo Gbadega, to present his welcome address. A round of applause for him. You are welcome, sir.
my constituency too. Most of my colleagues, the CEOs of publishing houses, are present. My board in NIBF and all other stakeholders are present. Oh, Mr. Mama, are you there? I just have to recognize you for your effort as well in making book ecosystem, a vibrant one. Men of the gentlemen of the press, they are present as well. Our online audience, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Society of Nigeria, REPRONIC. Our organization is the only reprographic rights organization, RRO, in Nigeria. that manages the second right of authors, publishers, artists, publishers, photographers, newspapers, and other literary works. We call on secondary rights because you have your primary rights from your royalty and other direct sales you are getting from the selling of books. So this particular one is your secondary right. It's a kind of a compensation. But by the time we are into it, we really understand what we are saying by that. Our major consent bodies are the Nigerian Publishers Association, Nigerian Authors, Academics, and Non-Fiction Authors Association of Nigeria, AMFAN, Society of Nigerian Artists, Photographers of Nigeria, PAN, Association of Translators and Interpreters, NATI, and Nigerian Proprietors Association of Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, MPAN. Let me use this medium to first appreciate our past leaders for the efforts sustaining the organization. In my usual saying, you don't build on nothing, you build on something. We all know that it takes time and effort to build anything great. I need to appreciate my own chairman, the past chairman, immediate past chairman of Ripronig, Professor Emeritus, Ulu Obafemi. I really appreciate you as well, for the effort in sustaining the organization. We all know that it takes time and effort to build anything great. That is why I want to acknowledge the incredible dedication of Nigerian Copyright Commission in helping Ripronig grow and develop into a platform that protects the rights of authors, publishers, and other rights owners in the book ecosystem. Madam, we really appreciate you. I can only see you. Are you the only one around from NCC? We appreciate you. They are the mother of Ripronig. They initiated it. They are the regulator. So their influence in our life is not something we should just write bad things all about. We must appreciate them at any given time because they are the one creating this platform, and we need to give you, please, a round of applause for NCC for giving us this opportunity. Ripronig is primarily concerned with bridging the gap between the rights holder, author, publisher, and the lives and the users, thereby facilitating secondary financial benefits, income, for the use of their works. The organization ensures that there is a controlled use of authors and publishers' works to receive fair compensation. I said compensation for their efforts, which comes from the infringement through photocopying, scanning, electronic storage, or printed materials, and other unauthorized use of works protected under copyright. That is to say, there's no way. Most of our offices, we have photocopy there. Most of what you are using is photocopy. We are infringing the rights of some people. As this is happening in university all over. So that is to say, federal government now realize, through the NCC, that they just have to compare. It's not only in Nigeria. This is what is happening around the world. So I think this is existing all over, over 50 countries of the world. And our other countries are still joining. But maybe by the time we are going to be able to hear from our speakers. As the brain behind of the NCC, we are one of the 3 established CMOs in Nigeria. While Ripronig manages reprography and other